In this video, I'm going to show you how to get started in property investing.
But why should you listen to me about property?
I've only been doing property investing for 7 years, but I really started out in my overdraft, working in a call center with zero money, and now I've got 23 properties. They're all HMOs and they're all in Nottingham. Just like this one. This one is a 7-bedroom HMO in Nottingham, but I didn't always start out doing these big HMOs. I started out turning normal family homes, 3 beds, into 4-bed HMOs. So the first thing you're going to need to do is really get into the studying. So you want to be studying every single day and taking it very seriously. So when I was starting out in my property journey, I'd literally dedicate a few hours every single night to learning and studying about property investing and all the different strategies. Once you've done that, you can determine the main strategy that you want to focus on and then triple down on the studying on that one strategy. Top ways to study: YouTube, podcast, and reading books. So there's so many really good YouTube channels that you can check out regarding property investing in the UK. Now, I'd say watch them all and find someone that you resonate with. But again, make sure you research the person that you are watching to make sure you're not getting false information. Podcasts, again, there's tons of really good podcasts. Just go onto Spotify or Apple Music and just type in Property Investing UK and just listen to all of the podcasts, guys. There's so much you can consume, and eventually everything's going to start making sense and you'll be learning throughout that process. The third thing is books. So when it comes to book recommendations, I'd say definitely read Rich Dad Poor Dad. This is going to get you thinking in the right way about taking on good debt versus bad debt, liabilities versus assets. It's really going to transform your mind and your way of thinking around money and building wealth. A second really good book that I recommend is The 44 Secrets of Property Investing by Rob Moore and Mark Comer. That book's great for giving you a clear understanding of all the basics within property. So my second tip is going to be get yourself a job. Now, the reason I'm saying that, guys, is because a lot of people think that property is some sort of get-rich-quick scheme. It's really not. It takes years to build a property portfolio. So I think as soon as you understand that, it will set your expectations realistically. Because the reality of the situation, guys, is that you're going to need income, because property is not going to be paying you straight away. You're going to need some income every single month that you know is going to be coming in. So when you have a full-time job or even a part-time job, it's going to set you in the right position and it's going to take the pressure off you for your property journey. So definitely get yourself a job, or if you already run a business, keep on running that business. Don't just stop everything else and expect property to keep on paying you every single month. You want to basically keep all your other things going. So work your job or run your business and then do property on the side. And then when your portfolio gets big enough, then you can focus on property full time. That's what I did, guys. I was working in a call center full time. When I had enough income from my property portfolio, I actually cut down to part time at the call center. And then when my portfolio got really big and I had around 5 or 6 HMOs that was paying me every single month, then I quit my job and I focused on property full time. Now, another reason why having a job is super important is because when you go to start purchasing properties and buy your first property, you're going to need to have a solid income in order to be eligible for a mortgage. So that needs to be a job, or you need to have a business. Now, if you are running a business, you do need to provide a few years worth of accounts in order to get a mortgage and to be eligible for a mortgage. But if you do have a job, then you're only going to need 3 months pay slips. If you've got 3 months pay slips and you can show you're earning a decent amount per month, then yes, you'll definitely be eligible for a mortgage. Now, how I started out is I basically got a residential mortgage. So on a residential mortgage, you can borrow up to 4.5 times your annual salary. So that's how I started out. I basically purchased my first property on a residential mortgage. Because I was working in the call center, that's how I was able to get that mortgage for my first property, which I purchased for £125,000. Now, you can still buy a really cheap property, guys. They are out there. I buy £100,000 houses all the time. I buy houses for 80,000, 90,000, 110. Some of them are more expensive, like this one here. I purchased this one for £280,000, but you can definitely get really cheap houses in the UK. I'm based in Nottingham. Check out the rest of my vids to find out more information about the type of deals that I do. So my tip number 3 is going to be get around people that are doing what it is that you want to do. So going back to point number 1, once you've started to study and you've chosen your preferred strategy within property, then once you know that strategy, you need to find people that are doing that strategy.
to a high level and basically get around those people by any means necessary. One person actually messaged me and said, I'll work for you for free in exchange for knowledge. And I ended up being very close friends with this person. So that's a great way of actually getting around people that are doing property to a very high level. Another way you can get around the right people is to go to networking events. There's loads of free property networking events. And another thing you can do is you can actually get a mentor. Now this could be a paid mentor or this could be a free mentor. So it's all about getting around the right people because you are who you surround yourself with. You need to be around people that are doing things to a very high level. So that is my tip number 3, get around the right people. Now I'm sure you guys know property developing and property investing can be very expensive. So it's very important that you do save up money in order to get onto the property ladder and get your first house. Now, if you've got around £15,000, that is a great point to actually get your first property on a residential mortgage. So that's what I'd recommend, guys, is save up around 15K and then go straight in and buy your first house for around 100K. Now, in order to save up money, a lot of people think that it's about focusing on the pennies and the pounds and making sure that they're scraping the money together. But the truth is, guys, if you focus on increasing your income, it's much easier to save. Now, I'm talking from first-hand experience. So when I was saving up for my first deposit, I actually worked 2 different jobs and I had some self-employed work on the side as well. So I was essentially having 3 different jobs at the same time so I could get my deposit for my first house. So that's what I did, guys, and that's what you guys can do too. Now, when you get onto the property ladder, it's going to be life-changing for you. So honestly, delay the gratification and say to yourself, all of the luxury things in life, you can get them later when you've got several properties. But right now, it's about getting multiple properties and getting started and getting on the ladder. So tip number 4 is save, save, save. Tip number 5 is don't spend £10,000 or £20,000 on training and education. It's just not needed. Now, I'm a big advocate of getting educated and getting the right mentors, but just make sure that you're not overpaying. You don't need to be spending £10,000 or £20,000 on these programs. And also, if you are going to pay for a mentorship or training program, just make sure that whoever you learn from is actually doing what it is that they are teaching. So you need to see the deals and see the completed deals as well. And you need to see the detailed numbers of the deals that they're actually doing, guys. Now, there's lots of people out here doing training programs and mentorships. So be careful, because there's lots of scammers that don't actually have that much experience in property and they're just trying to sell their programs to make money. So be very wary of that, guys, and just do your research on whoever you go with. Tip number 6, don't listen to negative people. So when you are starting out in your property journey, you are going to have people that are saying little negative comments, or they might just straight up tell you to your face and say, look, you know, why are you going to do this? You're going to waste your money. You're going to just mess up. But guys, do not listen to this, because when I started out, I had family members that were saying to each other, Luigi's going to fuck this up. He's going to mess it up. He's not going to be able to handle it. And people were just being very negative about what I was trying to do. So I did not listen. And that's where your self-confidence and your self-belief has to come in. And also there's a phrase that I like to use, which is how bad do you want it? Because you need to constantly ask yourself that. Say, look, how bad do I want this? You know, are you willing to do, you know, the super long hours? Are you willing to work 3 jobs and study on top in your spare time? Are you willing to sacrifice your social life for a little bit, for maybe a year, so you can get onto the property ladder and change your financial situation? Now, not everyone is willing to do this, guys, but if you are, then you're going to set yourself up for the rest of your lives. So don't listen to negativity, stay around positive people. And that brings me to one of my other points, which is get around the right people. When you're around the right people that are actually doing really good things in property, you're not going to get the negativity. You're going to get positive vibes. They're going to egg you on. They're going to tell you how you can get better. And they're the type of people that you need to be around. So don't be afraid to cut off friends. I've cut off so many friends over the years that were just holding me back. So that's my tip number 6. Stay away from negative people. Tip number 7 is don't invest into existing property companies. Now, there's one thing you need to watch out for, guys, if you are starting out in property, and that is you need to make sure that you're not giving your money to a property company for them to get rich, because essentially that's what you're going to be doing, guys. So when I say don't invest into property companies, there's lots of companies out here that are basically saying we'll give you a guaranteed fixed return of 6, 8%, sometimes up to 15 or 20%. Now do not do this, guys. There's a few reasons why. It's very high risk. You don't really have much security when you give a property company your funds, okay? So if you transfer £20,000 to a property investment company, there's a very high risk that you could lose that money, okay? But if you go ahead and buy a property yourself, you actually own the property. You have ownership. Whereas if you invest into their property company, they have the ownership, okay? So that's the key point, is make sure you're doing your own deals. Now, another thing to add on to this is be careful of property sources. There's so many different people that are out here doing property sourcing, and they'll try and charge you £3,000 or £5,000 for them to find you a property deal. Now, what I would recommend you do for your first couple of deals is find the deals yourself. Now, if you're really struggling, then you can engage a property sourcer, but make sure you do your background research on the property sourcer. And realistically, you don't want to be paying more than £3,000 for someone to source you a deal. So try and find the deals yourselves. It's a skill in itself, learning how to find good deals. So if you can master that skill, that is a skill that I do believe I have not mastered yet, but I'm on my way to try and master that skill. So I know how to find good deals, guys, and I learned that quite early on. The more deals you look at, the better you're going to be at learning how to find good deals. So that's tip number 7. Don't invest into other people's companies. Buy properties yourself. Tip number 8 is don't believe everything that you hear on social media. Now, the reason I'm saying that, guys, is because there's lots of people that are basically selling programs, selling mentorships, and they don't actually do property themselves, or they don't do it to a high level, but they make out that they do. So there is also certain people that will want you to invest with them, so they'll try and pump up their numbers and make out the deals are better than they actually are. So be very wary of that, guys, because honestly, it can get you in a lot of trouble. So take everything that you hear on social media with a pinch of salt, and just make sure you are doing your due diligence on whoever you're watching or studying. Me, I study people like Warren Buffett, who is one of the world's richest men at one point, and he's a very, very good investor. So I would watch him, I'd consume his content, get his mindset, and learn as much as I can from him. Also, other people I'd study is like Grant Cardone, and people from the UK as well that do property. So there's a load of good people online, on social media, but some people just lie on their videos. So take everything with a pinch of salt and don't fall for the bullshit. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and stay tuned for next week's video.